Hi everybody, I'm Nathan. Every week I do comic book reviews because that's a rule around my house. If I want to keep buying them, then I gotta review them. So this is going to be the review of Flashpoint number 5, finally. Flashpoint was kind of the first DC book that I bought with the intention of jumping into DC and seeing what it's all about, which my comic book store actually recommended I did not do. They said this is a lot of like in-jokes, and there's different subtle differences between a lot of the major characters in Flashpoint and outside of Flashpoint. This is around Flashpoint number 2. They said you probably don't want to come in here, especially when it's restarting in a little while. But me being a specific personal fan of alternate reality versions of characters, this is the perfect place for me to really get into. And while the tie-ins weren't great, and at times this main book got a little bit confused, a little bit directionally challenged, I think the end result is pretty good. So I like the artwork altogether. There's plenty of color, and maybe I've grown used to it over the time. And there's supposed to be some shocking events that go on in here. This is where the Flashpoint universe closes down and gets rewritten back into the new DCU that happens with the Justice League that came out at the exact same week. So they have to put some final nails in the coffin of the Flashpoint universe and explain why it existed and fix it all and then set up for the new one, all in one book. And this book does it really well. I thought it was a great ending for this situation. I'm not thrilled that you will never see any of these Flashpoint characters again, or probably won't, because it's a rewrite of the same universe over and over and over, like 3 times at least in here. But there are some great stories that were had in here, so that's okay. Like I said, there's supposed to be some shocking points going on in this specific book that may not have been so shocking to me because I don't really know these characters as well, but this is one of them. Batman stabbing Professor Zoom, I guess, through the chest. Now, I guess typically Batman would never ever do that. Bruce Wayne wouldn't, but Thomas Wayne would because he's brutal. I think he killed somebody in his first appearance in his own book or whatever. But here I thought that was like, oh, that's awesome. That's what Batman should be doing kind of thing. To me, more like the Punisher than anything. But to a lot of other people, I can understand that that's why this is not Bruce and that's Thomas or whatever. It's also interesting to me that they spent this whole series kind of saying that Professor Zoom was the bad guy and trying to find him and hunt him down, and then when he finally shows up on his own, he says, no, I'm not the bad guy, you're the bad guy, you did it yourself, and then he just hangs out, kind of fights him a little bit, and kind of weird. But they also they kind of force a little bit all of the characters from the other tie-ins that we hadn't seen since the end of their tie-ins or whatever, and we hadn't seen them really be involved in this, are in this last book, at least for a panel to show what's going on. And then here's another shock value one where Superman, I think he totally squished the Enchantress here, or whatever her name was, some magic user. Which is interesting because you wouldn't think that he'd be able to affect magic people. And he still looks really small and like a boy. I think they were trying to make him look skinny like a big skinny man, but he would probably be the same age, right? He would just look really skinny. I don't know. It came off that he looked kind of like a boy a lot of the times. But anyway, so right as this is figured out, Flash kind of figures out what he did to screw it all up, and he goes back and talks to his mom for a little bit, which totally slows down the middle of the book. It was a really weird way to break off from the Flashpoint universe and go back to the point where he had to do what he had to do and then start over into the new universe. It was kind of like a breathing point in the middle of the book, before you got back into, okay, here's the new universe and here's how it's set up. And then this is the panel that's being talked about everywhere, where there's 3 universes here, one being the before Flashpoint on this side, and Flashpoint in the middle, and then after Flashpoint on this side, and they're being put together into one big thing by Flash fixing the timeline or whatever. I didn't get all of the nods here, but I saw it and it's alright. But then you get a big ending with Flash kind of figuring out where he's at and going to meet Bruce over here because Thomas gave him a letter. And then at the very end you get crying Batman right there. He's sad. His daddy loves him. So there you go. Again, I thought the art was really good, and I thought this was a really great wrap-up for the Flashpoint series. It did have a different ending than I was expecting, but it's kind of the same. I would have almost preferred that Professor Zoom never showed up and they never found him, but they found out how they did this anyway, or it was somebody else that told them that, because it was kind of like the whole time they're telling you Professor Zoom did this, Professor Zoom did this, and then he showed up and told you, no, I didn't do it. That's kind of... I don't know. I was hoping that was a super red herring and that he wasn't even involved at all and didn't have anything to do with him, but that's just what they assumed because they thought this thing was crazy. And in the end, he really did have something to do with it because he knew how to fix it and he told them how to fix it right before they killed him. But anyway, I enjoyed Flashpoint in general. I thought these books were a good event book for the summer. They kind of had bits and pieces that were kind of off or messed up. And a lot of the tie-ins to this were not very good at all. I think there's only one or two that were good. The Outsider, I think, was one. And the Batman one was good, except for the ending. And I don't know. I kind of like the Superman one, except for the weird anime hair on the main bad guy in that. But there you go. So I'm going to give this an actual 5 out of 5 because I'm talking about the whole series as well as this issue. You got kind of some emotional background here. You got kind of some deaths going on in the main Flashpoint universe. And you got a decent wrap-up for that, plus the reinstatement of the whole new universe, and you get a good explanation for everything. At the same time, that the art is good, and the coloring is great. So, there you go. 5 out of 5, Flashpoint number 5. I really enjoyed it. I hope that we do see flashes of these characters eventually, but I expect not to see them ever again other than in toys or maybe a side story here and there, maybe. But anyway, there you go. That's the end of Flashpoint. 5 of 5, 5 out of 5. If you enjoyed that review and want to check out other ones of mine, I'm now posting my DC-related reviews on the BatmanUniverse.net, and they're also available on YouTube under Spidey207, on Comic Vine, iFanboy, and the Marvel and DC databases. If you guys have any other suggestions for where you'd like to see them, or what makes it easier for you to see these or listen to these because the audio sync is all messed up, and I'm still trying to troubleshoot that. That'll get fixed eventually, I promise. But right now I'm trying to get out all the reviews that I'm due from all you guys. If you have anywhere else you want me to post them, or if you have any questions or comments, I am more than happy to respond to anything. Just let me know. In any case, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.